I just the link. Meeting passcode. Gabby, it's asking for a meeting page. They're asking for a meeting passcode.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, the link, you need the actual link I sent there, and that should have it in it. Oh.
If she just clicks the link, it should join. She shouldn't need a passcode.
You should not need a passcode.
If she signed into Zoom.
Yeah, that URL, just if you click on that, it should require no passcode.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started shortly. If you are just joining us, please let us know where you are joining from, your organization name, and what state, area, so we can say hello and see who we have on today. Yeah, I see we have some people from Kentucky, California, Wisconsin, Texas. Oh, wow, there's a ton of people. Florida, Bay Area. Welcome, everyone, for joining. Thank you for all being here today. We're going to go ahead and get started shortly. We're just waiting for our other panelists to join. We had some technical issues with Zoom. I'm sure we all can relate to those. So she'll be on very shortly. But if you are here, let us know where you're joining from so we can say hello. This is going to be an interactive session today. So make sure you utilize that chat box during the session to let us know any questions you have. Let us know about your own events, maybe some struggles that you've had or challenges. And we have an awesome panel that's going to be able to probably help you with any issues you might be having and provide great ideas for strategies. But we'll give it a few minutes for her to join just so she can get that Zoom link working correctly. And she should be on in a few minutes, and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, if you are just joining us, welcome to our session, Maximizing Gala and Auction Success, Top Revenue Enhancers You Need to Know. Thank you for being here today. I see a few people are good amount of people are still pouring in, so I'm going to give it a few more minutes. We have Deborah joining us. Hi, Deborah. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Welcome. Good morning. All right. Today's session will be recorded, so if there's anything that you hear, you're going to be getting a copy of it, so no need to take rigorous notes. You're going to get a copy of everything we said today, as well as a copy of the presentation deck. So let's go ahead and get started. Make sure you utilize that chat box during the session too to let us know where you're joining from and any questions you might have. Okay. Welcome to Maximizing Gala and Auction Success, Top Revenue Enhancers You Need to Know. Today's agenda, we're going to start by welcoming our panel that you see to the left of me. We're then going to ask some questions of you guys to see who we have in the room. Then we're going to get an introduction by Deborah, for her organization. We're going to talk about the difference between active and passive revenue enhancers, and then also discuss, top 12 live and silent auction and Gala revenue enhancers, and then leveraging the right technology for your event. And then we're going to get into questions and answers. This is an interactive session though, so during the session, if you do have any questions, I recommend you utilize the chat box, which can be found on the bottom bar of your screen, and also the Q&A box, so we can make sure that any questions you have, we get answered. To introduce our panel, I'm going to start with Deborah. Deborah is the Executive Director of Domestic Violence Services of Snohomish County. How are you doing today, Deborah? Oh, Deborah, you're on mute. Deborah, you're on mute.
For crying out loud. Good morning.
Happens
It's
to
been
all
one of
of
those
us.
mornings. Little computer glitches, but yes, thank you. Good morning. Happy to be here.
We're happy to have you here. And then I have Jay Fisk, who is our chief auctioneer and co-president of Arreva's Microsoft Auction Software Division. How are you doing today, Jay?
I'm doing great. And as always, I love webinars because I get a chance to virtually meet a lot of folks out there that have challenges with their auctions. And my role, I hope, is to help soothe some of their concerns and give them some ideas to raise more money, which is what it's all about.
Definitely. And I'm Gabriella Salemi. I'm the digital marketing manager here at Arreva, and I'm going to be your moderator for today's session. So we want to go ahead and start by getting kind of a temperature of the room, but we want to ask you all, how many fundraising events do you run a year? These don't have to be necessarily auctions or galas. They can be, maybe you do a walk or a run. Maybe you do, smaller events that aren't necessarily for fundraising, but maybe for friend raising. But we just want to gauge, how many events are you doing a year? Okay, we have a lot of answers coming in. Okay, and I'll go ahead and now we'll share these out with everyone. You can see it's kind of all over the board how many events everyone's doing. But the revenue enhancers that we're going to be showing today can be used really if you do one event or multiple events throughout the years. There's no limit. The next thing we want to know at your event, what is the average number of attendees that you have? Is it under 100? Maybe you do, smaller events throughout the year, or are you doing large scale events that are, over 700, maybe 1,000 or more attendees? So we just want to gauge, how big your event is on average. Okay. So it seems to be the majority of you are doing anywhere events that have about 100 to 300 attendees, with a few of you doing over 700. Oh, and I see in the chat we have one large fundraising event, but would like to grow. And then the last poll I'm going to go ahead and launch is, what are your biggest challenges around fundraising events? And this poll, you can select multiple. So if you're facing multiple challenges, go ahead and choose each one that your organization struggles with. There's also an option at the bottom to choose all of the above if these are all issues that you're facing. Maybe it's getting people to attend or finding auction items. Check in and check out is, at the end of the night, collecting payments for all of your attendees, also getting people registered with bid numbers. Maybe it's, just the production, the lighting, sound, staging. How do you know, who to go to for that? If it's included with your venue, it might not be. Getting volunteers to help with your events, maybe coaching those volunteers to use your software that you use to run your auction, as well as, getting them to sell tickets. Maybe it's not enough money raised, spending too much time for how much we raise and you want to raise more, or keeping your event on schedule, which is it's an important part to planning a successful event. Okay, go ahead and let's look at those results now. Okay, so a lot of you seem to be struggling with, you're not raising enough, getting people to attend, finding auction items, you're spending too much time for how much you raise. Some of you are facing all of these issues. So you came to the right place, because we're going to cover all of this and more today.
Great.
Okay, and then I'm going to pass this over to you, Deborah.
So tell me again what you want me to do, Gabby.
Well, why don't you go ahead and give us an introduction of your organization?
That's what I wanted to make sure. Yeah. So we're a private nonprofit north of Seattle in Snohomish County. That's our service district, our service area. It's very rural to very highly populated. We provide we're the only DV agency in our county. We provide a 24-hour emergency confidential shelter for those in imminent danger. We have a 24-hour support line. We do prevention and education, legal advocacy, housing, just a lot of support groups, a lot of different programs. All our services and programs are free of charge. but you do have to be an intimate partner. Violence, one of our biggest things is to make the community aware of our mission and our values and what we're trying to do. And that's what part of fundraisers are a great opportunity to do that. So that's it. I've been here 14 years now.
Awesome.
All right, we're going to start with, this is our biggest fundraiser of the year. We have about 500 guests, approximately, give or take, 3 silent auctions like you see. We had decided after the pandemic, when we came back in person, we realized people were still very skitterish and, and worried about everything. Of course, we offered all sorts of safety, masks and all those things, but most people didn't wear the masks. And we went to 8 guests per table. And for our guests, they seem to really have a way easier time of filling 8 places than 10. I don't know why, but that makes them happy. And we've been very successful with that. And in fact, our guests are happy because it doesn't seem quite as crowded around the tables and those kinds of things. We had my, who I adore, my supervisor, Vicki, retired last year as CEO, and that's when I started in this position. But her belief was, we need to do as many live items as possible. If it was valued at more than $500, it was going to go on the live auction. And it took me years to convince her to bring it down. Oh, and coincidentally, the raising of our revenue went up. So we're down to under 30. I'm going to try to really work hard at 25. So it's more items does not necessarily mean more money. It's the same amount of money in the room. So
Yeah, I'm going to jump in on that real quick, if you don't mind. I will tell you that as I travel around the country, I find that the West Coast tends to think in terms of more auction items in general, and the East Coast tends to think in terms of fewer auction items. I've sometimes have folks on the East Coast, I'll tell them 10 or 15 live auction items, and they'll have an attack because they think, oh my gosh, we usually do 3 or 4. On the West Coast, it's like, well, why are you only selling 20 items or 15 or 20? We do 30. So it's kind of a regional phenomenon. And the point is, whatever number you have needs to fit into the envelope of your evening's agenda, and make sure that you don't bore people to death by, dragging it on. Staying in on schedule is the big part. So.
Yeah, it makes a great time.
And
Anyway,
Deborah, there's a question in the chat for you.
I saw that question. Our sponsorship is interesting. When I first started, we were asking the same places, banks, companies over and over again for our main events. So I said, why don't we just, yes, I'm referring to live items, and we can talk about silent items too, but I lost my place now. Sorry. Remind me of the question, Gabby.
How much is raised through sponsorship?
Oh, right. So we switched to year-round sponsors. For our main sponsors, we have somebody who is a year-round sponsor at $20,000, and we have a year-round at $10,000. I want a couple at $5,000, and then a whole bunch at $2,500. And each of those levels get certain specific things like X number of seats. Maybe we upgrade their wine. It just depends. So I'm going to say $50,000 to $75,000 in sponsorships.
But the important point you mentioned is you talked about sponsors that you have every year, the same sponsor every year, and that's what we call a sustaining sponsor. It's just as easy to ask for a 3 or 5 year commitment as it is a 1 year commitment. And often it's easier to get a 3 to 5 year commitment because it allows the sponsoring organization to put it into their budget. If you ask for 1 year, it's an off budget. Often it's an off budget expenditure for them. But if you say, could we depend on you for the next 3 years, they can, in the second and third year, put that into their annual philanthropic budget or into their annual advertising or marketing budget, wherever bucket they want to put it into. And so you sometimes will find it's easier to find those as sustaining than a one-off.
I saw there was a question about in writing. Yes, absolutely. When we talk to our sponsors, especially our long-term ones, we meet in person if we can, depending on people's schedule and Zooms, of course. But to try to keep up that relationship with them, have them understand what a difference it's made for us. Last year, we helped more than 20,000 individuals with domestic violence. So that makes a big impact in our community. We always want to make sure we share throughout the year, but not harassing them, but letting them know they made a difference. One year, Heritage Bank sponsored the back of our bid card for like $2,500. And so I sent the president of the bank an autographed bid card that has their name on it, just with the kids thanking them for their support. Just little things like that didn't take me much time, but it goes a long way.
Nice.
Revenue enhancer. We do a whole bunch. So we started with heads and tails, but call it chocolate and vino, but I like Jay's heads and hearts. Instead of people putting their hands on their buns, they put it on their heart. So that's great. So I'm gonna just look at my notes. Let's see. Heads and tails, we only charge $20 a person. One of the reasons we do as many of these enhancers as we can is to make sure everyone's included. Not everybody has $5,000 to spend on live items or silent items or whatever. So this is just an extra way for people who are limited on income, but want to support us. So the heads and tails, $20 a person. We usually have 100 or maybe a little more people that play. Our prize for it is a weekend for two in Palm Springs, and we have a sponsor who covers that trip. So everything we make is just all for us, and people love that Palm Springs trip. Anybody from my area. Oh, so he's asking what's heads and tails. Jay, you want to go ahead with that?
Yeah, thank you. I was actually going to jump in and do that. Heads or tails is a way to get everybody in the audience that chooses to opt in for something quick. And basically, they pay, as Deborah said, $20. It could be $10. It could be $25. But they can be done by selling the opportunity ahead of time during the silent auction, or it could be something instantaneous, literally during when everybody's seated, just ask them to put their bid number up in the air if they want to get involved, and we read off their numbers at that denomination. But then we have them stand up and put their hands on their head or hands on their heart, their choice, or hands on their tail. Some organizations do that. And I have a big coin I use, and we flip a coin. And if the coin comes up heads, the people with their hands on their head, they're still in the game. The people with their hands over their heart, they sit down. And we keep doing that over and over again until we have, in this case, we had six people remaining. We bring them to the front of the stage so that everybody can see them. And we ask them to put their hands over their head, hands on their heart. I flip a coin. And again, if their hands are on their heart and it comes up tails, they're still in the game. We do it's process of elimination, and eventually we get to one person, and that person wins the prize. Very simple.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. People really, it's a great way to kick off everything. We also we use a piece of paper. We don't use our bid card. So what we on a table, it's a piece of paper says, do you want to help in heads and tails? Here's how much it costs. Here's the directions on it, and put your name on the list. And then we have volunteers that come around and collect the pieces of paper, while our fabulous volunteers and Joan is back in the back office putting all that money in there.
Yeah.
Um,
And the amount you charge is really up to you and the sizing of the audience. For some people, $10 is appropriate for the audience. Some people do $50. It really depends on who's in the audience and what the prize is. It's if the prize is a substantial prize, you can charge more. If it's sort of like a night on the town or something, it might be a smaller buy-in or something like that. We also had a question about the golden raffle. Deborah, explain the golden raffle.
Okay. Is it okay if I follow the direct what's on here, the balloon drop, and then go down, or
Yeah,
you
go for it.
jump around?
Yeah, go ahead, do the balloon drop.
Okay, so the balloon drop. This is something my boss, who you see on the picture in the bottom right, holding her hand up, Vicky, thought of, because she went on a cruise and they did this off of a 2-story balcony. So we don't have quite that hurrah of a 2-story balcony, but what happens is we sell little baby balloons for $35 each. And if you look at the picture, you can see little baby balloons in a big giant balloon. We sell as many baby balloons as we can. And if I buy one, my auction number goes into it. And the prize is a place here we call the Herb Farm, which is a minimum $750 for 2 people or higher to eat there. It's like an 8-course place. It's just really crazy, and people don't ever want to spend that kind of money. So spending $35 for a chance, they are on it. So what happens? We're done selling. The live auction has started. Jay calls up the balloon people. They pop the balloon. The person who sponsors the balloon drop then comes up and picks a little balloon, pops it, and there's the winning bid number, and they get that 7-course, 8-course meal. We have done very well with it. Unfortunately, our balloon lady passed away, and so we had a little bit of a struggle one year, but we're back on target. We had sold the first year 300 balloons. Now, we didn't sell that many last year because of balloon issues with the balloon lady passing. So, any case, that's what that is. The Palm Springs, all those trips are, the balloon drop's a little odd. So, you're out in the hallway or wherever you are, you're selling balloons, and they're little ones, and they just put your bid number in it, and then they put it in a big giant balloon, and you bring that on stage and you pop it and you make a big to-do. The person who sponsored the balloon drop would then go ahead and pick out a little balloon and pick out the number. It's like drawing. Go ahead, Jay.
I want to jump in here. We're getting a ton of questions falling through the chat. Obviously, in the interest of time, we're not going to be able to answer every question in real time, but all of those chat questions will be captured, and every question that is asked in the chat will be responded to, if not during the webinar, after the webinar. So I want to assure you that we're not ignoring you if it comes up in the chat. It just there's in a matter of time. We're going to grab a few along the way, but every one of your questions will be responded to. One of the questions was the golden ticket raffle. That this one, by the way, is this one should be in every event.
I agree, Jay. It's the easiest way to make money. We did $50 a ticket for a long time. Then we went up to $100 a ticket. We only sold 100 tickets, but last year we did 125. And the golden raffle, what it is somebody who purchases the ticket gets a shiny blingy thing, a ring or a necklace or something that says, I'm special because I spent a lot of money on a golden raffle ticket. And if you're the name drawn by Jay, then you win any prize on our live auction, any item. Now, some people will limit, and Jay can talk about that, but we do not limit. We found that was confusing and irritating to the guests. So there you go.
What Deborah means is that sometimes people say you can get any prize out of live auction catalog except for these 3 items. And unfortunately, it's the 3 items that you're eliminating that tend to be what I call raffle magnets. They're the reason people want to buy the raffle, is because they have a chance to win those raffle magnets. They're the big trip, maybe a trip to Bali, or maybe it's a cruise or something like that. So what I recommend, instead of limiting what you can win, I limit it to the dollar value of tickets sold. And that way everybody feels that they have a chance to win every prize in the live auction catalog. So we just say, yeah, you can take any item you want out of the live auction catalog up to the value of tickets sold. So if you sell $10,000 worth of tickets, you can take any item worth up to $10,000. If you have a $15,000 item in there, we didn't eliminate it, we just didn't reach it. So it's a much better way of setting that limit, so you're not upside down with we didn't sell enough tickets to justify the big prize. The main reason why this works so well is there are people that come to your event that know they're not going to be able to win as a bidder the big items of the evening. If you've got a trip to Bali, you've got a cruise, you've got a big dinner for 8 at some fancy restaurant or something like that, you're thinking, you know what, I'm going to bid in the silent auction, but I'm never going to be able to outbid the people in the live auction. But for $100, if I've got a 1 in 100 chance of winning a cruise, I'll spend $100. It's a donation, and who knows, they might draw my number and I might win that cruise. That's a $10,000 cruise. So that's why it works in the golden raffle, because it allows everybody in the room to have a shot at a live auction item. So that's why that works.
I'll just mention, I was looking at a few of the questions, that the heads and tails and the balloon drop and the golden raffle ticket drawing are all done at the very beginning of the live auction. So it gets people very excited and moving along and ready to go. So Jay does a great job with that. Oh, well, as far as donations go, Jay can talk about that. There's all sorts of different ways to get donations. We work very hard to get our donations. Let's talk about the gift card table because I think this is something that's really cool. All it is gift cards, and we get gift cards given to us all year round. I also have, like, my sister has a baggie full of them. I'm like, I need some gift cards. I always want to make sure that my gift cards are $35 or more because they're at least getting the value of what they spent. 50 to 75. We even had 100 gift cards one time. Last year, a friend of mine donated a $500 Nordstrom's gift card. So that's your selling point. Hey, for $35, you could get a $500 Nordstrom's gift card. And we raised $1,750 last year. Sometimes it's been more, sometimes it's been less. But this is something you can easily talk to your donors about all year round. We do gas cards, restaurants, Amazon, just anything like that. And yes, we sell all the golden raffle tickets before the live auction
We
starts.
we have to do that because we have to draw the winner.
Yeah.
So you have to stop selling the golden ticket when it's time to draw the winner. So no golden tickets are sold.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're selling out. We'd
Yeah.
like to try and sell out.
Yep, we have a state gambling commission, and we have to apply for a raffle license and a special events permit. So each state is going to be different. So you're just going to need to research that yourself. For us, it's minimal money, so $60 or something like that, I think.
And again, just a quick reminder, we have gotten so many questions. I'm watching the chat here. There's probably 40 questions so far have been stacked up. We're not going to have time to answer them all in real time. We'll pick and choose as we go, especially if it's something that we happen to be on the topic that we're on right now. But if we missed your question, please keep putting them in to the chat. I will, or Deborah will, or Gabby will get around back to you with a specific answer to your question.
Yeah.
We're not going to
I'll
ignore
just
it.
say, to me, the gift card is the easiest thing because it's something you can actually just ask people all year round when you go to your chamber events or your whatever public events. You can ask different businesses and companies and all sorts of things. So
A
you
great
can make
time.
it really hard.
A great time to ask for gift cards is when you're paying a bill. So for example, if you're eating out at a restaurant, bring a procurement form with you. And when you get the bill from the wait staff, say, can I talk to the manager? And they'll say, well, is there an issue? Say, oh, we just want to thank the manager for the excellent service and the fabulous food. And at that point, the wait server will go as fast as they can to get the manager. When the manager comes, say, I've had a wonderful time tonight. Our server was fabulous. The food is great. We'd like to spotlight you in some way in our upcoming fundraiser. Would you be willing to donate a dinner for 4 here so that we can include you? And if you're there, you're paying your bill. That's the time you're most likely going to hear yes, and you hand them the filled out bid form. So we'll move on. Active and passive revenue enhancers. I'm a real believer in making money from things that are part of your setup, as opposed to something you have to actually go do. I love having things you actually have to do. But also, why not make money from things you don't really have to do except one time set it up? So what does that mean? The active revenue enhancer is something you do, like you're selling a card, you're doing heads or tails, you're selling a golden ticket raffle, you're doing a live auction, a silent auction, you're doing a raise the, all those sorts of things are active because you're interacting with the audience. A passive revenue enhancer comes from things that happen because you were efficient. You put in place something that by its merely being there and activated becomes an enhancement to your revenue. And we're going to get into those right now and talk about some of those.
And just to let everybody know, I'm happy to send Gabby some more detailed information, like on how we do the drawing for the gift cards, how that processes works. I don't think we want to get into that today, but processes I'm happy to share because it took us a long time, but we figured out some very good processes and people do not wait in long lines with us. So anyway, here we go.
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about it. So raise the paddle. Go ahead and talk about that, Deborah, on how you do your raise the paddle, and I'll talk about a little bit why it's so important.
Well, yeah, this is really the ask in the middle. I would guess it's about item number 22 for us, and then there's only 4 or 5 items left after that. This is the time where we quiet everybody down, which can be tough, but Jay does a great job, and your auctioneers should be able to do that with no problem. And someone that happens to be me last year that was up and speaking about DVS. I thank our staff because they come to the event to make sure everybody recognize them and know them. But it's really an appeal to the heart. We have a professional videographer who videos one of our clients that has agreed to tell their story. Many times it's intimate and upsetting. We have a lot of survivors in our audience, so we're a little different than some places because it's domestic violence, but we show the video. We usually have a speaker, and then we ask for direct donations. I also spend time ahead of time. I should spend more, but I do as best I can. Talk to my bigger donors about larger gifts, like $10,000 gifts or whatever it is, and if they would be willing to be the opening bids for or raise the paddle to get people excited and going, and knowing that there's people in your audience who are willing to commit that kind of cash. It's cash. So.
And one of the reasons why this works is that if you have an audience where people have bought tables, like corporate tables, or maybe somebody's been a table host, there are people that are in that audience that fall into kind of two different categories. One is people that are there for the cause. They're there because they support your mission, and they're going to give you money because they came to support your mission. And then there's people that are there that maybe don't know your mission. They don't know why they're there other than their friends invited them to come to the event. So they're there and they're learning about the mission. This is why it's so important for someone to get up and talk about why we're asking you for a donation. That's selling the mission. But they're thinking, you know what, I'm here, I got a nice free meal, I'm getting entertained, I'm at a corporate table, or my friends invited me, whatever. I'll put my card up at $100 or $250 or $500 or $1,000 or whatever I think I can afford. So you're allowing all those people that are normally be eaters, if you will, to now be bidders or donors by making a straight cash contribution. They may not win anything in the live auction, they may have been outbid in the silent auction, but they can go home feeling good about having helped because they kicked an extra $250, $500, or $1,000 into the bucket for the evening. So if you're not doing a raise the paddle, if you're one of those organizations, and I know you're out there that say, oh, we don't do a live auction, we only do a silent auction, you're really missing the point. The live auction is the life support system, if you will, for the raise the paddle. The live auction sets up the raise the paddle. It's hard to do a raise the paddle with only a silent auction. So if you're only silent auction right now, I strongly encourage you, put in a live auction, even if it's only half a dozen items, put in a live auction so you can justify. For those of you that didn't win anything in the live auction, you can still put your paddle up and help us now. And you'll be amazed at how much money you'll be able to sweep out of the room. It's incredible. It's an active revenue enhancer. Let's go to the next one.
No, Jay, do you want to talk about this? This is really
about
more something you do.
So again, if you visualize your audience, there are people in your audience who can afford to buy everything in the book, and there are people in the audience that are just happy that they're getting fed, right? In between the people that can buy everything and people that are happy they're being fed is where the bulk of your bid activity is. But not everybody can win because you have a finite number of items. If you have 15 items or 20 items in your live, by definition, you can only have 15 or 20 winners. So what we do with Bidding Frenzy is it serves two purposes. One, it allows everybody to get into the act, and two, it rewards good behavior and also adds energy. Here's how it works. We put in to the program book a list of 5 or 10 or 15. It can really, the number doesn't matter. You want at least 5, but it can be 10 or it can be 15 restaurants, and you list them in ascending dollar order from the $50 gift card to the $250 gift card as an example. And right before your big items of the evening, right before you're into the cruise and the big dinners, in the program book, it lists those items. And we pause and we say, ladies and gentlemen, before we move on, we're going to stop and have the bidding frenzy. And the bidding frenzy works like this. I'm going to read off the item, and I'm going to give you the value. And the first card I see in the air is going to get at that price, unless a lot of you put your card up, in which case we might have to go up in price. So, and these frenzies can be restaurants, they can be golf outings, they can be They can be sports tickets. It really doesn't matter, but they should be related in some fashion. It'd be a category of something. So we'll go, all right, we'll say dinner at Duke's, $50. 106 gets it. Dinner at Outback Steakhouse, $75. Oh boy, a lot of cards up at 75. How about 85? How about 95? How about 100? Oh, we got 125 at $100. So it's often sold at above the fair market value. We start at the fair market value, but it goes up from there. And usually, cumulatively, all of those restaurants end up with a percentage of yield, if you will, well above the face value of those restaurants. But more importantly, it injects energy into the room. It gets everybody involved. Those people who sort of tuned out because the items are getting too expensive, suddenly now they're back in the game. They grab their bid number and they're doing their best to try and be the one that's selected by the auctioneer. It's a wonderful way to get rid of 10 or 15 restaurants and also dump a lot of energy. And by the way, it sets up the big items because now that people are in the book with a restaurant frenzy, human nature, what do you do when you're in a book? You flip the page, right? Well, what's on the next page? The big items of the evening. So we reoriented everybody to the program book without saying, would you please take out your program book? We're about to get to the big items. Okay, so there you go. That's an active.
People have a ton of fun, I think, with that, and it's easy. It's easy to do. So
talk to us a little bit about the wine poll.
Oh yeah, well, this is again an easy thing. This gives you some ideas of what we do there on the right. Our wine poll, I'm just looking at my notes again, anywhere from, we get donated anywhere from 75 to 100 bottles. Each bottle needs to be valued at $35 or more because that's what we charge. I personally go to a lot of auctions to support other organizations. And I have had numerous times received a bottle of wine that said it was going to be $35 or $50, and it's only like 10. And it's disheartening, and I feel it's kind of dishonest. So I personally take the time and check every single bottle. So that's my pet peeve. But what we do is
you don't taste every bottle. You just check
no,
it.
no, I wish. No, yeah, no, I just check the value to make sure it's that. We put it in bags, you can see. We have numbers on the bags, and we have corks that are numbered. Someone gives their bid number to the volunteer, then they get to draw a cork, and then they get to win a bottle of wine, guaranteed to be $35 or more. And this last year, we had a high-end bottle of wine. I'm not sure, can't remember how much, $400 or $500. That was the prize for the wine pool. We decided that also because we have a lot of guests that like champagne. So we had a champagne pool. It was smaller because it was our first time doing it. We had a local jewelry store donate a set of pearl earrings valued at $500, and then a bottle of Dom Perignon, high-end champagne that's now like, gosh, $300 a bottle or something. So whoever gets that number gets that prize. So again, very exciting, and people love that. But this is all before this is during the silent auction. So again, it's kind of like shopping for your silent auction. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun.
I saw the one comment from Kentucky that they do a bourbon poll.
Yep.
Great idea. No reason why you couldn't do that.
Hospice did that last year, I think, Jay. They had a, I think it was like bourbon, whiskey, kind of a combination thing, and it was the same similar type thing. Yeah.
Well, here's a different take on it, and that's the wine bottle spin.
Yes.
This is something we've been doing a lot at auctions out here. I actually built a wine spinner. You see it there in the picture. And you take the bottles and you lay the bottles around a round table. They're all, of course, hidden in either bags or wrapping, as you can see. And you pay $25 to, quote, play spin the bottle. And it's amazing. We sell out very, very quickly. People love interactive games. I would avoid things that are games of skill. Some people like to go with ring toss, where they'll put out empty bottles of wine and you have to toss rings. And if your ring goes on top of one of the necks of the bottle, the problem with games of skill is it takes too long. You don't have enough throughput. You can't get enough people through the ring toss to make enough money to make it worthwhile. So I found with the wine spin, it's very quick. You pay your $25 or $35, whatever you spend the bottle, it clicks, go click, 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 goes around 4 times, stops, they grab their bottle, they go. And as the bottles are being sold, you start moving the bottles towards the middle of the table. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And eventually there's 4 bottles on the table and 2 bottles on the table and that sort of thing. So that's a variation on it. Okay, so let's move on to the next. So the suite, this is one I'll talk about. Sometimes you'll have a way to sell the same thing to a lot of people. What I've seen before would be something like a VIP suite in an NFL football game, and there's 20 seats in that VIP suite. Well, trying to sell that 20 seat suite to one person means that two people have to be willing to bid against each other and spend enough money to justify a 20-person suite and then entertain 18 of their friends. What we can do instead is we can sell the tickets within that suite to people in the room, and we just say, we're going to start at $100 a person and go up. We want everybody in the room, and I call it auction chicken. We want everybody in the room to put their bid number up in the air. Even if you don't want this, go ahead and put your number up. It'll look good in the photo, right? So we get everybody in the room to put their bid number up in the air, and I say, all right, this is for the ball game between the Bears and Seahawks, whatever. And it's going to be on such a day. If you want to go to that game and sit in the VIP suite and have access to all that food and beverage and everything else in the VIP suite, put your card up in the air. I'm going to start $100. Here we go. And when it gets too expensive, pull your card down. 100, 125, 150, 175, 225, 250, and maybe around 250, 275. I look around the room and there's 20 bid numbers, and I read them off. Read off the 20, and we made $2,500 or $5,000 at $250 with 20 of them. So we make $5,000 on that. It might have been difficult to sell that item for that amount of money. So that's called a suite. You can also do it with limited edition items. Sometimes I'll have organizations that are wine-oriented events. And what they'll do is they'll have a special bottling of a wine with an etched label, and that bottles are signed by the winemaker. And so it's a very limited edition of 30 bottles of wine. The only way you can get that bottle of wine is to buy it tonight, and you get 30 autographed bottles of etched label wine signed by the winemaker. And so we're going to sell these for the 30 people that want to do it. And again, we'll start at $50, $75, $100, $125, $150, whatever. And when it looks like we're down to the 30 bid numbers, we read off those 30 numbers, and they get that limited edition. So that's a sweep. That's an active revenue enhancer. Okay. Let's go to the next one. So dessert dash. So Deborah has mastered the dessert dash. So tell us about the dessert dash. This is amazing.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of fun. And really, our theory was, it's just cake. So last year we were $100 short of $20,000 for dessert. And really, it's just cake, but people love it. So you can see the pictures, and I was glad we had these pictures, because we divide our room in half so that the dessert tables are in the middle. It's kind of difficult to explain. So if we have 70 tables, I'm going to get donated 72 to 73 desserts, all different kinds, all high end and appropriate. I think it's a perfect opportunity for, as an example, a real estate person to maybe sponsor for $500 or $1,000. They can put their little cards and signs all over the table. You can see that we put labels out, the cards that say what the dessert is and all of that. So our people are crazy. They walk around and look at those desserts. They keep an eye on them. They try to figure out what their top 2 or 3 dessert that they might want to bid on, etc. We, for years, had people make them, but after COVID, we'd said that is just not a wise choice. We found a big, giant bakery, and they discount it for us. So the cost of anything is covered by your sponsorship. I also have our hotel resort where we have it donates 10 themselves. So it's great. So, and at the table, there's a piece of paper that says, who wants to buy a piece of cake, basically. And it can be anywhere from $10, $20, $50, or $100. Oh, people make them. I'm sorry. That's people at home made homemade cakes. And we don't feel that's appropriate anymore health-wise. So do you want to talk about what you do then, Jay, with this whole dessert dash thing?
So the bottom line is the people at the table are making a donation, so that their cumulative donations at that table are going to allow them to choose the dessert first, second, third, or fourth. We put them all in the computer, or the software handles all that automatically. We just enter all the donations from each table in the computer, and the computer prints out for us, the software prints out a descending dollar list. And we say, all right, it's time for the dessert dash. You're going to get the dessert for your table. One dasher from each table, come on up here to the front. I want all the people to start from the same location, so no one has an advantage by being closer to the dessert table. So they all line up, and I'll say, table 12, go get your dessert. And that dasher goes and gets the dessert. Table 13, go get your dessert. Table 2, go get your dessert. And so they all run and either pick up their dessert physically, bring it to their table, or they have a flag with their table number. They stick the flag with the table number on or next to the dessert, and the wait staff will end up delivering the desserts. This is a variation on just having a banquet cheesecake or chocolate decadence that everybody in the room gets the same thing. Each table gets a unique dessert, but we end up making thousands of dollars on that dessert. I mean, I don't know how much you made, Deborah. I think it was close to $20,000 or something,
Yeah.
if I recall, on the dessert dash. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. I always say, when you do a dessert dash, put a great big bowl of lime jello with bananas in it on there as well, because it's a decoy. People will look and say, well, we better not be last, or we're going to end up with a lime jello. Now, in truth, if there's 30 tables, there's 31 desserts out there. The lime jello is a decoy, but no one ever goes along and actually adds up how many desserts there are there. So that's my little enhancer there. It, by the way, it can be a tray of Twinkies as well.
Oh yeah, and we have themes to our auction. We usually have 480 to 500 guests, and one year we had a camping theme, and so we had little trees on the cakes, and all people get all carried away. We did an under the sea, so there were fish cakes that look like fish, and things like that. So and also Jay points out here, and I think it's really important, because we do ours right after our raise the paddle. So we have taken people way down. It's quiet. They're thinking in their hearts. It could be upsetting to some, but whatever it is, we need to bring it back up. And this does it, because people literally will run and people will elbow each other. And if you can tease the table next to you, hey, how much did you guys all bid? Because we did $1,000, so we're going to get the better cake. And so people do that. They bid on the cake on a piece of paper. You write down and say, I'm going to do $100. My bid for my piece of cake is $100. And then everybody else at your table fills in what they're going to bid. And then you get an overall dollar figure. And that's how you determine who goes first.
And we like to do it right after the raise the paddle as reward for good behavior. Basically, we don't do a dessert before, because we don't want anyone to eat the dessert and leave. You can't get a raise the paddle donation out of anybody that's already left, and people don't leave a room until they have dessert, right? So the dessert sort of is the glue that keeps them in their seat. Once we get the raise the paddle, then we reward them with a dessert. Now, this is something that I like to do at auctions periodically. It's called the dinner or dessert upgrade. And this is really a lot of fun. Let's assume that you're basically going to serve the chicken cordon bleu or the basic chicken dinner or something like that right before dinner service. When we're ready to introduce the auction, but before the dinner service, I'll get up there and I'll say, ladies and gentlemen, I've got good news and bad news. We've had a little problem back in the kitchen. We for somehow miscounted, and we don't have enough of the chicken cordon bleu for everybody in the room. But what we do have, the chef has been able to find some Maine lobster that was flown in for another event, and he's willing to make the Maine lobster, or it could be prime rib or some other, it could be ribeye steak, some other upgrade for the table that is left out. So would someone in the room like to volunteer to take the Maine lobster instead of the chicken cordon bleu? And of course, everybody in the room put their bid cards up in the air and say, well, that sounds like an opportunity. For the dinner upgrade, how about $100 to start, 100, 200, 300, 400? And we end up selling the dinner upgrade for $1,000 or $1,500 to a table, because somebody at the table host wants to be a hero and have that table get the Maine lobster or the prime rib or whatever, versus the chicken. It's a lot of fun. And of course, we quote accidentally have enough for 2 tables and we double it up, right? The dessert works the same way. If everybody's going to get a cheesecake or a chocolate decadence, what we'll do is we'll, right before the dessert service, we never, by the way, preset desserts. Major error. Never put desserts on a table, ever, no matter what. So right before the desserts flow in with the wait staff, we have the chef wheel out a cart in front of the stage and start preparing cherries Jubilee or bananas Foster, complete with flames and lots of brown sugar and butter and everything else. And of course, we come off the stage as an auctioneer and say, "What are you doing, chef? You're right in the middle of the auction. You interrupted the auction." "Oh, well, I've decided I'm going to make bananas Foster for everybody." "Oh, do you have enough for everybody in the room?" "No, but I got enough for one table." "Oh, well, that's an opportunity." So now what we do is we say, well, if you don't want the choice between lime jello and pound cake, which is sort of my standard line, perhaps you'd like to bid on having this cherries Jubilee or bananas Foster brought to your table side. And of course, again, we have the tables bidding against each other. This allows tables to be interacting as opposed to individuals. So now tables are bidding against each other, collectively bidding to see if they want to get the bananas Foster at their table. If you can't do flames in your room, a good alternative to that is banana splits served table side. You can do that. And another thing you can do if you are going to serve dessert to everybody, you can also have a tray, not a tray, but a drink cart, an after dinner drink cart with aperitifs and so forth, wheeled out table side for after dinner drinks. That's another option as well. So the dessert upgrade only works, of course, if you're not doing a dessert dash. If you're doing a dessert dash, it won't work. But if you're just doing the standard, catered fare dessert, the dessert upgrade is a moneymaker. It'll make it easily $600 to $1,000 without a problem. And this, of course, special items with sometimes we'll have a tray of drinks brought out as a surprise. The wait staff will be walking through the room, with lemon drops or Mai Tais or whatever the special drink's going to be, and we sell it. We sell it off to one table, or in this case, it could be having a table side special drinks prepared for you. Okay, those are we call surprise items. Deborah, this is one that we've not done at your event before, but I think we can do it next year because you have some terrific sponsors. And the way this works is quite simply, you find a sponsor that's got a big ego. And we all know who they are. There's somebody in your town that does a lot of advertising on TV or whatever, and they want their name mentioned over and over again. So we invite them to be the overvalue bidding sponsor. And the way this works is we say that during the live auction, anytime an item sells for over its fair market value, that company XYZ has very generously agreed to match the amount over the value. So if we sell a $2,000 item for $2,500, then company XYZ is going to kick an additional $500 because we were $500 over the value of the item, okay? But it gives the auctioneer a chance to mention that sponsor numerous times. And for me, it would be something like, "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight during a live auction, XYZ companies agreed to be our overvalue sponsor. Anytime I sell an item for over fair market value, they're going to match the amount over. Let's make sure that every item we sell tonight has that overvalue on it because we'd like to get as much money out of these folks as we possibly can tonight." Okay. And so as we're bidding, we get close to the value. I'll say, "You know what? We're only $100 away from fair market value. Once we hit that $1,000, then XYZ company's on the hook. Okay, we got $1,000 as a bid. How about 1,100? 1,100 as a bid. How about 1,200? Sold $1,200. And you know what? We made 1,400 thanks to XYZ company because they're the overvalue match." So as an auctioneer, I get to mention their name 2-3 times on each item as we approach the value. It's a terrific thing for a sponsor that wants that. And you can get a lot of money for that. Occasionally you'll get a sponsor who'll say, "I need to set a limit." Totally fine. We can say up to $10,000. Don't let a sponsor say, "Well, I'll do at least 1,000." No, collectively, it's got to be a big number, like a $5,000 overvalue match or something like that. So that's one great opportunity for that. So auction something for everyone. And Deborah knows this one. If you are only selling a few high-end items, then you only have bidders by definition that can afford a few high-end items. And a passive revenue enhancer is making sure that you get everybody involved. This boosts the revenue. I like to joke at the beginning of auctions, and there's a lot of truth to the joke, that we don't make money from the high bidder. We only collect it from the high bidder. We make money from the second, third, fourth, and fifth place bidders because third, fourth, and fifth place bidders because they make sure the high bidder pays appropriately. In other words, the more bid activity you have, every bid step makes you money. If you have only high-end items, then only people that think they can afford the high-end items bid. And so you might only have 2 or 3 bidders or 4 bidders on an item. But if you have something for everybody, you get everybody in the act. Maybe start with a low dollar, a $300, $400, or $500 item to start the auction and ramp your values up and ramp your values back down again like a bell curve. You get more people involved, you tend to get more active bidders. And every time the auctioneer says, another bid step, you've made more money. You may ultimately collect it from the same person that was going to get it anyway. But instead of paying $2,500 for that item, they paid $3,500 for that item because we had more active bidders. So having everybody have their ups, everyone has a chance to get their ups at some point is really, really important. It also helps the auction feel like it's going faster for everybody. Okay, so that's a passive revenue enhancer. More bid steps, more money. Roundup option. This is something you can do pretty easily if you have the right auction software, but you essentially ask people at the beginning of their check-in when they're walking through the door, tonight, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, if you're a successful bidder on an item, would it be okay if we rounded you up to the nearest $100 to support our mission? Nearly everybody at check-in will say yes. Those that don't think they're going to spend any money are going to say yes because it doesn't cost them anything. Those that are there to support you are going to say yes because they're there to support you. And the remaining people are too embarrassed to say no because everybody else is saying yes. So you're going to have nearly 100% of the people are going to say yes to the roundup. Now, if you have it done on your phone, that's fine. If in the case of our software, text to bid, it's one of the options they get at checkout is they can say, yeah, round me up. You also can ask for the credit card. Can you cover the credit card fees? And that's another option that bidder can have at checkout is to cover the credit card fees as well. Okay. And then also, let's go to the next one, the star raffle. This is another passive revenue enhancer. Remember, I talked at the beginning how if you set up your processes right, you make more money. So this is another one of those passive revenue enhancers. We look on the bid form, and this could be a paper bid form, or in this case, it's a mobile bidding. But either way, whether it's paper bidding or mobile bidding, the process is the same. We designate a point in the bid activity where if you place a bid at that level, in this case, the $350 level, you are automatically entered into a drawing. And the only way you can be in that drawing is if you place a bid at that level. You don't have to win the item. Somebody else can win the item, not a problem. But if your bid number is associated with that bid level, you're in the drawing. And in the case of text to bid, which is what we're looking at the screen, it picks the winner automatically, but again, it can be paper. If you're using paper bid sheets, it can be a blue line on a paper bid sheet. It can be a star next to an amount on a paper bid sheet. You set the amount to be above where you think the bidding is going to go. If we thought this item was going to sell for $250 or $300, we placed the star at $350 because we're trying to drag the bids higher. A passive revenue enhancer because it's allowing you to make more money simply because you offered a prize at a higher bid amount, and it justifies that. And Deborah, you don't do this at your event, but you have other events that you go to, I know, that do this very effectively.
Yeah, the hospice auction does this, and they seem, I would just suggest that if you're going to do this, it can be a little confusing to people that you have either volunteers around and to explain this or share the information on signage or whatever. So that, because the first time my boss and I went, we were like, huh, we don't get it. But now we do, and it's a consideration. We might do this. I'm just not sure yet.
I'm going to give you, so what, the question is what items are given out? It's really whatever prize is appropriate based on the amount of additional revenue you expect to get. I will tell you that if you do a star raffle, a blue line raffle, 100% of your auction items will have a bidder at that level because there are people who walk into the room and the first thing they'll do is they'll go to the star level and place a bid at the star level. Or they'll get on their phone and they'll immediately go to the items that are at star level and they'll click on it. So what they've done is they've bypassed the 150, the 200, the 250, the 300, and they're going to 350. Now the only way they can be outbid is if someone goes to 400. So you basically raise, in effect, you've by passive revenue enhancer, you've systematically raised the opening bid to a much higher level for most of your items. It makes you more money in your silent auction. So what prize is appropriate? A prize based on how much extra money you expect to make by that. In some cases, it might be a $200 prize. Some cases, it might be a $1,000 prize. It really is relative to how much extra you're going to make. I do have one variation on here for the live auction. It's not really star raffle live auction, but it's called a key raffle live auction. Here's how this works. If you have a 15 item live auction, have a key symbol next to 5 items in the live auction. Maybe item number 1 or 2, maybe item 4, item 8, might 12, maybe 15. When someone wins that item in the live auction, they not only get the item they bid on, they also get a key. And one of those 5 keys opens a treasure chest. They don't have to buy the key. They just have to be the successful bidder on the item. So again, it's a passive revenue enhancer. What's going to happen is people will bid higher on that live auction item. They'll bid more aggressively on that live auction item because in addition to getting the item, they also get a key and they got a 20% chance of winning a prize. So again, it's a passive revenue enhancer. So that's called the key raffle. It's not in this slide, but it's a bonus. All right. So another passive revenue enhancer is stay on schedule. Boy, this one drives me nuts. You'll say your live auction is going to start at 8 p.m. and at 7:55, one of your board members is going to just talk for 3 minutes to encourage everybody to bid. And at 8:15, they're still talking. And meanwhile, the audience is looking for sharp butter knives. So you got to stay on schedule because when people are looking at their watch, they're not paying attention to what's going on the stage. You've got to reward them for being there by staying true to your word. If you say you're going to start dinner at a certain time, do it. When you say you're going to start the auction at a certain time, do it. When you say you're going to end the evening, do it. There's no reason for an event to drift. When it drifts, you lose bidders, you lose energy. Stay on time. You'll keep bidders in the room, in their seats, because they know that you're being true to what you promised them. Stay on time, real important. Okay. And by the way, no one is ever talked into being generous. So don't let anybody that wants to give a talk think that they're going to talk people into being generous. People that you do have speaking should be speaking about the mission, period. The audience will decide if they want to be generous or not based on how they connected to the mission they are. But, cajoling them and encouraging them and please be generous, it falls on deaf ears and it just wastes time. All right. Well, we're at our number, but we would like, I think we got in right on time. We'd like to know if you'd like to learn more about what we can do. Our commitment to you again is we will make sure that A, you're going to get a copy of the slides. B, you're going to get a link to the if you request them, you're going to get a link to the video that we recorded. We're going to answer all your questions as well. Okay.
Yeah, we'll definitely be sure to get in touch with you after the session too. I know there was a ton of questions and we're going to get to questions in a minute, but I do just want to give you a little bit of an overview about who we are, because we've been talking a lot about software and a lot of these things that you saw today are all managed with software in the back end. So, one of the challenges that we saw organizations were facing, had to do with organizations and donors. Particularly, they were using multiple siloed solutions to manage their, online fundraising, donor activities, and donor management. And none of those solutions spoke to whether it was for, donation platforms, event registrations, peer-to-peer, team fundraising, memberships, volunteers, live and silent auctions. And the fundamental problem that existed across the board with nonprofits that we spoke to was that none of those solutions spoke to each other. And this was, something that cost them a lot of time with moving data around. You can sometimes have one person in an organization whose job it is to just move that data around. And then on the other part of it, it's the donors and making sure that your donor stewardship is personable and you have those meaningful interactions and build deeper relationships with your donors. There's a statistic, 45% of donors, when not acknowledged, will not give again to your organization. So making sure that you thank your donors in a timely manner was one of the challenges that we saw organizations facing. And the solution to that is Exceed Further. This is from Arreva. It's all of these applications, we like to say many solutions in one database. It is truly the only option in the industry right now for a all-in-one, cloud-based, fully integrated and automated online fundraising, donor relationship management, healthcare, hospitality, and auction software platform. So all of these solutions integrated into one place. Who we are, Arreva's been in the industry for 30 years. We've been helping nonprofits. We've built exclusively for nonprofits. We have over more than 6,000 happy and satisfied clients. We've done over 30,000 live and virtual hybrid events, galas, live auctions, silent auctions, and fundraisers. We're nationally vetted and approved by the Ronald McDonald House Charities, Boys and Girls Clubs of America, Variety, Tides Foundations, the Jewish Federation, St. Vincent de Paul's, just to name a few. I won't go through all of them. And our solution is Exceed Further. You can see here, we're built for, organizations that are just starting out, that need a way to manage their donors, to consolidate everything into one platform, to larger organizations that, utilize all of these solutions, maybe peer-to-peer, team fundraising, memberships, volunteers. And we also offer, a wide variety of auction software solutions that Jay was sharing today, like mobile bidding, auction websites, auctioneering, and ways to manage your live and silent auctions. We have a 95% client retention rate, which is one of the highest in the industry. These are just some of the returns that our clients see. We're eliminating 4 applications on average, which, ultimately ends up saving you more. And all of 100% of our users have achieved board giving year over year, and they're seeing a 215 increase in site engagement. This is really important. When you go on to Facebook, you're never taken off of Facebook's website if you click a link. And that's something that a lot of nonprofits were noticing. When you go to click donate, it takes you to someone else's website. So your site engagement is negatively affected. With us, your donors remain on your website, and you have complete control of that journey of where they go once they click the donation budget button. So your site engagement is increasing. And you're also acquiring new donors, with our users seeing a 300% in database constituent increases. And, we like to say we're with our clients for good. We have options for, our client success team, which, is very personable, offering your organization one-on-one solutions. We offer online training. We have Arreva Academy, educational webinars, technical support, and we educate our clients on best practices for utilizing their software, just like we did today. We want to thank you all for being here. If anyone wants to remain on, we'll go ahead and get through some of those questions. And if you did want to request a demo or learn more about Arreva and some of the solutions we provide, go ahead and make sure you hit yes on that poll, and we'll make sure someone gets in touch with you. So Deborah and Jay, why don't we hop over to the chat box, because we have a lot of questions here. One question I did see that popped up a lot was, how do you make sure you get the right people in the room that are going to be contributing to your live auction and all these revenue enhancers?
Yeah, I lovingly call that bidders, not eaters. Because bidders will always eat your food, but eaters will not always bid on your items. So that's part of the invitation process. If you are providing $100 value dinner and you're charging $85 because you quote want to fill the room, you'll have a room full of eaters. If you're charging $125 for a $100 value dinner, you'll have a room full of bidders. It starts with how much you charge to get in. The more you charge, the more you're likely to have bidders, not eaters. You need to have people there that are there to give you, they're there for the cause. The other way is with table captains. I'll let Deborah answer this as well. But with table captains, the invitation process. If your board members are your table captains, or your strong supporters are your table captains, ask them to go through their, old school term, Rolodex, virtual Rolodex, and pull out the people that are most likely to be there for the cause. I say put them in categories A, B, and C. A is, yes, they'll pay their own way in, and they don't mind overpaying because they're there to support you. You're a friend, and they like the cause. B is, they may or may not pay their own way in, but once they're there, they're going to spend money. And C is, they're not going to pay their own way in, and even if I invite them, they're probably just going to eat the food and they're not going to spend any money. So when you categorize your invitees on a personal level into those 3 categories, it's pretty easy to see who you want to invite and who you want to fill your table with. Deborah, you've got some ideas on that too, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, basically the same as Jay. Part of it is that relationship building over the years. One of the things we ask our year-round sponsors to do is to provide a table of guests. It's not required by any means, but they do understand that we need people who are going to spend money and want to contribute to the cause, all those kinds of things. And I would just say, you got to know your audience really well. And for me, where we are, a lot of my contacts, I've been in nonprofit for 40 years fundraising, and a lot of them, oh gosh, are retiring. So all those relationships I've built, we're now continuing on, but doing some rebuilding with some of these people and sponsors and companies that have been with us a long time. That's why I think Jay said, just every once in a while contacting your donors and letting them know how you do it can be as easy as a phone call. And most of the times I just end up leaving a voicemail message. And as far as vendors go, I know this is jumping around. I would just say, or sponsors, I always look at my vendors, people that we pay money to for services. As an example, we have Stalwart Plumbing, plumber to DVS, kind of thing. And our electrical people company donate, and just different. Comcast donates. Banks are great. Auto dealerships. The banks need to give away money. They're required by law to give away some of their money. So anyway, that would be my suggestions. But yeah, you got to know your audience. Definitely.
Let's get some more.
Yeah, the question that I saw asked by a few people, these big ticket items that are in the auction, like cruises, trips, how are you getting those donated? How do you get people to donate those?
They're hard to get donated. You occasionally, if you have a good relationship, you might be able to get them donated. Many organizations use consignment companies for that. I will tell you that you want to be careful not to overload your audience or your auction with too many consignment items. Maybe one or two premier items if it happens to fit your theme. If you're doing a Hawaiian theme, it makes no sense not to have a trip to Hawaii, as an example. If you're doing a Jamaica Me Crazy theme, you ought to have a trip to Jamaica, that kind of stuff. So those you can get through consignment. It's best if you have that consignment cost underwritten by a sponsor. You'd like to go in with a $0 cost if you can. And there are a lot of organizations, businesses that have nothing to donate. I'm talking about dental offices, professional doctors, lawyers, banks and so forth. They really have nothing to donate, but they can be an underwriter for an item to put into your auction, and then it gets donated on their behalf. So instead of the cruise, having a cost to you, it's provided by, let's say, the local law firm or the local bank, and it goes in under their name. So again, it's zero cost to the charity. Yeah.
Well, and I would add to that, I'm blessed that being in north of Seattle, Holland America is out of Seattle, and they have always been very generous and donated. So my suggestion, I have a volunteer who I trust, and she goes online and researches these kind of companies for me. What are their giving guidelines? When do you have to do it? So we've got it by month. So in September, if I'm going, I need to apply for the Holland America cruise. In October, I need to apply for this. November, because a lot of it is online nowadays. And so we are scrambling to get away from our just sending out letters to past donors and anybody we can think of, kind of thing, to making sure that we're hitting the right people. And after the pandemic, a lot of businesses closed. So this person, she happens to be a friend of mine, but a volunteer, cleaned up our database too. She went and looked up everybody and see if they were still in business and what the deal is. And we got deleted those that were not unfortunately around for us anymore.
Okay, let's do a couple more here.
There was some questions. These revenue enhancers, like the golden ticket raffle, balloon pop, do you only sell tickets for that at the event, or do you sell those before the event as well too?
We only sell at the event, and I think that's for us is we have laws around our raffles and what we can and cannot do, and I don't believe I can do it online like
You
that.
cannot. Not state of Washington can.
Yeah.
And typically you want people to do it at the event because that's really where they're into the spirit of it. When they're just now some people will on their ticket will list, do you want to get involved in our golden ticket or something like that. I know in California that I've got a couple of clients that will sell the golden ticket as part of their RSVP process. You could do that if you want. The trouble is you don't want to sell a golden ticket to someone who's not attending the event. And you don't want to sell a golden ticket to someone who no shows. They may buy a ticket but not come to the event. Now what you've done, you've drawn, and there's no one there to be excited because the person that bought the golden ticket and decided not to not to come to the event is the winner, and you have no way to contact them. So it's best to let those type of enhancements be event only. Yeah. Got
Great.
another quick one?
Yeah, this can be the last one because I know we're way over time, but any suggestions on how to capture the payment the day of to minimize the follow-up?
Well, same way the hotels do. You know, if you've checked into a hotel anytime in the last 50 years, they ask for a credit card on the way in the door. Why do they do that? Because they know you're going to go to the restaurant, you're going to have dinner, you're going to go to the bar and have a drink, you're going to order a movie, whatever, and they don't want, they don't want you to have to stand in line at the end of at checkout to pay. So they get it up front. You're more likely to do everything if it's going on your hotel bill. We do it the same way. We call it Q check or quick check. And when people come to the event, the first thing we do is we say, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, tonight, what card would you like to leave on file in case you're a successful bidder tonight or make a donation? We'd like to reward you for your generosity by not having a cashiering line. We take all flavors of cards. We swipe the card on the way in the door. And then what we do is remind them at the raise the paddle, especially, that if they left a card on file when they checked in, and the only thing they do tonight is raise the paddle, they don't do anything with a silent or live auction, their reward for their generosity is they have no cashiering line. And so they can be generous if they want. So getting that card on the way in the door actually is another passive revenue enhancer. It makes you more money in the raise the paddle because the people are more likely to give if they're not rewarded with having to stand in line at the end to pay. That makes you more money.
I was just going to add one more thing. People were asking a lot about volunteers, maybe how you give them or whatever. I mean, we have a core group of volunteers who are dedicated because they're survivors. So that's not easy, but that's a great group. But many of our banks locally, First Financial Northwest Bank, literally when they're a sponsor for you, whether it's $500 or $20,000, they have an auction team that is ready to come in. They're experienced on setup, cleanup, whatever it is that you need. Same with Heritage Bank, same with, so and for us, it's First Security Bank, and they are literally our experts, and we are done and set up for a 400 item auction with all those other things added onto it. That's a silent and live in 4 hours because they're that good. And we use a lot of volunteers. The more volunteers, the better, but you need to have somebody in charge of the volunteers, and it cannot be you running the event.
Wow, we got through a lot of information, and I know there's a ton more questions, and I commit to making sure that everybody gets an answer. I'll probably be busy for a day or two, but that's okay. We'll make sure. And Deborah, I know that there's a couple of requests for some of your materials as well, which we'll make sure we'll get out to everybody.
Yeah, I think I'll write up Gabby's processes for those things, make it a little bit clearer for people and how we actually do it. This was more just your general overview and ideas. So
I would like to thank Deborah for being number one, a great client, running an amazing event, but also taking time out of her busy schedule to work with us on the preparation of this webinar, as well as today working on the webinar with us today. So thank you so much, Deborah, and I wish you.
Well, thank you. I'm just glad. Hopefully some of it will help people, or at least trigger your imagination. Oh, they did this. Maybe I can do it this way for my group, because every area of the country and groups are different. So
Yes.
Hopefully you'll be able to do that.
Yes, thank you, everyone. I saw a few people asking for a copy of the presentation and as well as a recorded session. No need to worry, you will get a copy of this presentation deck as well as a recorded version of the webinar so you can hear all the conversations and questions that were discussed today. Thank you so much, Deborah, for being here with us. Thank you, Jay, and thank you all of us for joining. We hope you can join us on our next session, and we hope you have a great day.
Go Seahawks.